Hello, Illini fans. Ryan Schroet, 200columns.com, and Keeping It Orange and Blue podcast. So I waited, I slept on it, was thinking about this, and, a couple things never wavered for me after Illinois' 63-10 debacle against Indiana last night on a primetime NBC, beautiful platform to just lay an egg in every aspect. So first, I want to say, I still believe this team can win 9 to 10 games. 9 games with possibility. They're going to have to play really, really good against Washington, and they can't look like this at all to have any sort of chance. They're going to have to take care of business against USC, which is going to be a tough task, but it can do that, especially at home with a homecoming crowd. And some guys that are embarrassed from having their ass whipped last week with some pride. I think they can do it. USC has shown that they will beat themselves a lot with penalties, and they're not not disciplined, and their defense can give up tons of yards and points as well. So things have to get fixed for Illinois for that to happen. And then, of course, Ohio State and Washington will be tough tests after that. But about last night, the biggest thing here and the biggest issue for Illinois to get to a chance to have 9 wins or possibly even play for 10, things have to get fixed in several areas. And coaching accountability is a big one. And I'm going to start here, and I mean this. The offensive line has looked like dog crap for most of the year. Majority of the year, the offensive line has not been good. Of the 7 sacks last night, 5 of them were on the offensive line. I think one of them Luke maybe stepped into, and then Caden Fagan missed a block. But the offensive line has not been good. They don't look like pride. There is pride anywhere in there. If you think about it like this, Bart Miller talks about having his unit be the toughest, nastiest group on the field. That's what he preaches. Bart Miller has not been practicing what he preaches. His guys are not even close to that. They may be the weakest unit on the field quite often. It's got to eat at Brett Bielema, because offensive line is his calling card. You have these guys coming back, and they're not performing even to half of what we'd expect from a unit that old and that, dependable. So, Bart Miller, Brett needs to hold his coaches accountable. I think Bart Miller needs to step up here and get these guys figured out, and they need to switch some guys. And just because you have a C on your jersey doesn't mean you need to be out there playing. Josh Kreutz was terrible. Josh Kreutz looks bad, and he's not been good for a while. And you look at the inside, J.C. Davis has been better. I know he's not 100%. My guy, Melvin Priestley, needs to step up, and if that means he needs to sit down for a little bit and they play other people, then they need to do that. If you watch Henderson and Geske, we're getting abused quite often as well. It's just not a tough, nasty, dependable, physical unit. That is a huge problem, and that falls on Bart Miller, who falls on Brett Bielema. And I think we all could say an F for the O-line for the first 4 games. It's been bad. They didn't even look like they belonged on the field last night, and Duke abused them in the first half. So, with that said, coaching accountability, we'll say that. I like Robbie Disher, but you know what? The special teams unit cost Illinois 14 points last night. Let's just keep it real. And they had 3 really bad plays in a row. You had 10 men on the field for a punt. Tanner Arkin doesn't reach his hand out because there's a free runner because you have 10 guys on the field. Who does that fall on? Okay, there's one. Then let's look at what happens with the punt. Let's look what happens with the punt. They allow a punt return, the ball to bounce at the 10-yard line, and instead of catching it to fair catch it, you let it drop and roll all the way to the 1. That's a momentum killer, man. Like, you can't have that. You're backed up, and then you give Indiana the ball right back, who comes down and scores. But if you think about it like this too, the Illini defense in the first quarter made some stops. Illinois got a huge stop, and on 4th and 1, what happens? Illinois doesn't have enough their unit lined up to get out there for a punt return, and then Indiana says, "Screw this! You call a timeout. We're near midfield. We're going for it." What do? They pick it up and go down and score. There's 14 points. That's accountability. You know, the injury issues going on is problematic. But I want to say this too. Xavier Scott's likely out for the season. You're going to hear an announcement tomorrow about Xavier Scott. Plan on it being he's done for the year. And why is he done for the year? Because he was out there against Western Michigan in the fourth quarter, up 31-0 for no reason. He didn't need to be out there. Another thing, think about this. You've got to be smart. Why is Matthew Bailey out last night, 56-10? Why is he still out there banging heads, trying to tackle people? Now he's in concussion protocol. The coaching accountability here. You got to put your best players in the position to win. And you also sometimes, maybe when your best players aren't playing that well, you need to switch them out here. And sometimes that costs you too. You just got to be smart. And there's a lot of good coaches on this staff, but they're not doing anything right now that shows you that they're good coaches. Now I love my guy Aaron Henry, but Aaron Henry, it's troublesome, you know, when you got guys that are injured and you know your defense is getting worn down, and it's like, who do you play? Who do you throw in there at times? You know, I think yes, he was out coached by Mike Shanahan, but you can only work with what you're able to use and who you're able to put in the game. Injuries, you know, the injury bug may have hit and hurt some more. You know, Tyson Rooks get put in there late. You know, is Caleb Patterson going to be okay? He was walking off on crutches even though he had a negative x-ray. So a lot of variables heading into USC this week. And I know Brett Bielema is going to make some adjustments. He's proved that he will during the past few seasons when things weren't going right. And you need to do a little bit of a shake-up and a wake-up call. That's going to need to happen. But remember, this team is still good. Don't jump off the bandwagon or the Illini train because of what happened in one game. It was one game, and it was an ugly game. But you can't let one game turn into two. Brett's going to tell you that tomorrow as well. It is true. Don't give up on the team. But you have every reason to be pissed off because last night was embarrassing. Monday night, keep it orange and blue. Stay with us. We appreciate you. Swap me out.